Clock.
The children are heading to school right now, and we've talked about how school zone safety, it's so important. We've talked about it many times, and maybe not quite yet. It's 7, so maybe they're going to leave in about an hour. Anyhow, despite these discussions, it seems that change is slow in coming. Speeding, construction, and the lax assessment of these construction projects may be putting children at risk. Of course, things have to get built and developed, but children, don't they also have a right to get to school safely? I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Wednesday, October 16th on BEFM, 부산 영어 방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to our program on this hump day. Can you believe it's already Wednesday? And, I know we had a lot of rain yesterday. I hope that you're all doing well, safe and sound, that you had no major issues to deal with. All right. So we have addressed the issue of construction around school zones. We've talked about this before and how that may be putting students at risk. But it's not just the construction, but how the local governments, how they're greenlighting these projects, meaning, they gave them permission without consideration, or at least much consideration for the students themselves. So according to local news outlets, the Gangdong Elementary School in Haeundae, that school is located right next to a site that is planned to go under a redevelopment construction. It's going under major construction next August. And the fences for the construction, they're already up. And the site is just 60 meters away from the school, so quite close. Both the students and construction vehicles, they will be using the same road once the construction begins in earnest. There's also the issue of noise that may affect classes. And as we all know, the quality of education so important, is it not? Well, despite these concerns lodged by the parents and even environmental authorities, the city's education office, it has approved the construction without asking for supplementary measures. So actually, local lawmakers point out that Busan's education office has a very high rate of approving these types of construction projects around schools on the first try, meaning these projects, they aren't asked to go over these hurdles when it comes to, comparing to other regions. We're talking about 81% of all proposals that are okayed. By comparison, only 60% of such near-school constructions were approved on the first attempt in Seoul. And that is, something to think about. And I hope we get the tongues wagging. We want to talk about this because we're talking about our young ones, our students, our youth that, are going to be affected by this. And mind you, it's not just, the traffic and the dangers of construction sites. It's also the noise levels, the distractions, the dust, etc. All right, now we're going to get to our text topic. If you could replace or reset any physical attribute or maybe a body part, what would it be? Which part of your body would you want to kind of replace or press reset on? 자, 여기저기 아프고 결리는 현대인 우리 다 아픈 데 있지 않아요? At least one little part of our body. Well, 만약에 내 신체나 장기 중에 단 하나를 교체하거나 리세트할 수 있다 하면 어디를 선택할 거예요? 무엇을? What part? There are so many. My mind is racing. Oh, do I need to replace my mind? I hope not. My brain, I hope not. But so tell me what you would replace or press reset on, reboot, in terms of body parts or organs. You can send in your answers to BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. So go to YouTube. You can search for BEFM or 부산 영어 방송. And yes, once you do that, you can log in, you can subscribe, and of course, chat with our other waivers. It's very lively. Also, on your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. Also, you can reach me for free through our KakaoTalk channel as well. Search for BFM or 부산 영어 방송 as well. And the ways you can listen to our program, so many ways these days. 90.5, 103.3 FM. That's on the radio. Also, like I said, we're streaming live right now as we speak on YouTube. Oh, you can watch us later at your leisure as well. Also, we have the BEFM app plus. We're available on the Patbang app as well. So it is Wednesday. What do we have in the lineup? Who's coming in today? In hour number 1, we have Leon with hashtag fact check. So this is a segment where we get Leon to check out really interesting rumors, legend, things that are kind of trending on the internet. Are they true? Are they not? And then Jennifer, she's going to help us sharpen our personal and business skills with Skills 101. Coming up in hour number 2, we have a very special interview. They're all special, but this is extra special because we have booked Dr. Victor Ambrose. Who is he? He is one of the recipients. It was just announced a few days back. We did it in news highlights. Nobel Prize winning scientist right now. So he has just been announced as one of the winners for the Nobel Prize in medicine. And this is all regarding microRNA. It sounds complicated, and I promise you, I will try to have him, yes, please, knock on wood, kind of explain it in layman's terms, kind of, simplify it for us. That's coming up in hour number 2. I'll be back for today's headlines. It is now 7:07, and these are today's headlines. North Korea cuts off all land routes with South. North Korea yesterday blew up roads surrounding the Gyeonggi and Donghae lines connected to South Korea as the South fired warning shots across the military demarcation line. Yoon calls for bipartisan efforts to scrap financial investment income tax. President Yoon Suk-yeol yesterday urged the parties to work together to abolish the planned financial investment income tax in an effort to shore up the stock market. Polls open for October 16th by-elections. South Koreans are heading to the polls today to elect 4 local government heads in Kimjeong District in Busan, Gangwon County in Incheon, and Gokseong and Yeonggwang counties in Cheonnam, as well as the education chief of Seoul. U.S. warns Israel of cuts to military support unless Gaza's situations improve. The Biden administration has sent a warning to Israel saying it faces possible punishment, including the potential stopping of U.S. weapons transfers if it does not let more humanitarian aid into Gaza. South Korea snatches 3-2 victory against Iraq in World Cup qualifier. South Korea's young offensive stars grabbed a 3-2 victory against Iraq in the Group B match in the Asian World Cup qualifying tournament with goals from Oh Se-hoon, Oh Hyun-yu, and Lee Jae-sung. These are today's headlines. It is now time time to check in with Haley. Good morning.
Good morning.
So before we jump into Busan updates, our text topic's so interesting today. If you could replace a part of your body or, press reset, a do-over.
My eyes, for sure. My eyesight, not like appearances-wise.
Your eyes are so
They're
pretty.
great. They're great. They're fine. Whatever. But they're also horrible without my contacts or glasses.
Okay.
So I would like to reset it to, I know exactly when. The third grade. When I was 10. Because that's when I started. Well, that's when they started to go downhill so early at the ripe age of third grade, because I kept reading under the covers.
Yes.
Against what my mom yelled at me to
too.
not do. Yeah, so I'm at negative 7,000. That, and then if I can get another chance, because our producer said she can't think of anything, so I'm like, well, give me your
Are you
free
perfect?
pass. I know, is she perfect? Is she?
Is she?
And I was like, if you give me your free pass,
Yes.
I had my blood sugar because I love sweets.
Your
I
blood
love
sugar.
There's nothing
I didn't
wrong
even
with
think
them, but
about
I'm like, so I can if I can like reset them.
body
Why? It's okay. My pancreas. It's also
Your
in charge of fine. Chaejang, whatever. I mean, that's where you draw the line of being realistic, really, on this topic. But yeah,
Right. Oh, interesting.
whatever it is that lets me eat more sweets. Yeah.
I like that one. All right. So now that we know that our producer is biologically perfect, we're going to jump into our first update. She is, by the way, beautiful. We're going to go to Yeouido, where Busan City went through its parliamentary audit, right?
Right. So the city's parliamentary audit was the first one in 3 years. So there were lots to cover, including issues like opening a branch of the Pompidou Center in Busan, the Kadok Airport, of course, as well as the redevelopment of the Kudok Stadium.
Yes.
And there was the issue. They had to backtrack and talk about the, I suppose, the failure to win the bid to host the 2030 World Expo. And interestingly, the issues involving the First Lady even entered Busan issues. So Democratic Party's lawmaker Lee Yeon-hee questioned the 42,000 keychains that were apparently designed by the First Lady, and why the city purchased so many of them and so quickly. To that, Mayor Park Hyung-jun explained that the keychains were used for domestic promotions for the 2030 World Expo. And then also lawmakers questioned the validity of opening up a third art museum in Busan. So that would be in reference to the Pompidou Center, which would have a 110 billion won budget. The DP lawmakers criticized that they don't think a new art museum in Busan would boost Busan's soft power. However, Mayor Park also explained that hosting or having a global art gallery / a museum, it would expand the region's cultural potential. And also there has been criticism that while Seoul, there is a Pompidou Art Center, a temporary branch in Seoul. So wouldn't that overlap? And Mayor Park explained that, well, just because there is one in Seoul doesn't mean Busan can't have one. That's a very Seoul-centric line of thought.
Sure.
There was also a particularly tense moment when lawmakers questioned whether that museum would benefit the mayor's wife, which he called would be defamatory, basically.
Oh, yes. So that's, that for now. But other issues were discussed, though, right?
Right. So Kadok Airport was also under discussion. There were questions about the direction of the airstrip, the scheduling of the opening. However, overall comments were basically urging for an early opening of the airport, which is very important. So it's good to see that the lawmakers are on board.
Yes.
Representatives also addressed whether the city was properly executing its budget for the victims of the rental scam, and also the Kudok Stadium redevelopment was under discussion as well.
I see. So that is the parliamentary audit once again regarding Busan and Busan issues. So let's move on though. Busan Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is trying to deter people from illegal fishing.
The weather's so nice, and for people who do fish, I'm sure it's great time, but please fish only where you're supposed to.
So we're focusing on like 불법 낚시, right?
불법 낚시, right,
Yes.
right. So Busan Coast Guard said that they've caught 15 people for fishing in restricted or unauthorized areas.
I see.
So fall, once again, it's peak fishing season, and the authorities have been conducting crackdowns against these illegal fishing areas. There are 11 such sites in Busan.
Right.
So it is dangerous because, well, illegal fishing can lead to accidents. In the last 5 years, the number of fishing-related accidents have been going up consistently. The Coast Guard explained that a lot of these restricted sites are on very steep hills. They can get very slippery, or they don't have lights installed, so they can be completely dark at nighttime. And because of this, number one, it is easier for people to get injured. But secondly, and more importantly, when you call 119, it's harder for first responders to get to you.
Oh, goodness. So we need to know about this, where it's unauthorized, don't fish. No illegal fishing. Next up, the Busan International Architecture Festival is going on right now.
Right. So the Busan International Architecture Festival, or the BIAF, the week and architecture week opened yesterday, and it'll continue until the 19th of this month.
Okay.
So this event is to increase public awareness as well as interest over urban architecture. And if we don't really think about it, I mean, you may not have had majored in it, but just spaces and interesting buildings, they really do boost the city's skyline and overall atmosphere. And this is an event that encompasses architectural organizations and institutions here in Busan.
Right.
So it'll include an award ceremony for the most Busan architecture, the most uniquely Busan building. And there is also a design workshop exhibition where architects and architecture students have worked together and submitted about 100 models, especially under the theme of carbon neutrality. And there will also be an exhibition of 11 works by children who have used their imagination to render buildings, right? Love it. And there are also other public participation events, including various talks, film screenings, and tours of major works of architecture in Busan.
Wow. And I was thinking about this. What would be like very quintessential like Busan architecture? So curious as to how that's going to go.
Right.
And now we're going to take a look at this upcoming film festival. So what is this?
Right. So the Busan International Film Festival, of course, over.
Yes.
But there's the Latin American Film Festival, or the 2024 중남미 영화제. That opens tomorrow until the 20th at the Cinema Center.
Okay.
So this festival will screen 12 films that have been recommended by the respective embassies of the 12 Latin American countries that are stationed in South Korea. So we're talking about countries like Chile, Costa Rica, and the Dominican Republic. So each of the films will highlight or reflect each country's history, culture, and some social issues.
Yes.
And best news, all events are free. That's including the opening ceremony tomorrow and the film. So you can visit the Cinema Center website, jureraum.org, for a full schedule.
Thank you for letting us know. Heads up on that, the Latin American Film Festival. So that was Haley, and we're going to check in with her with news in just a little bit. Back to you, the waivers, though. We were talking about this. If you could replace a physical attribute or body part or press reset, 다시, which part or what part of your body would it be? 자, 만약에 내 신체나 장기 중에 하나를 교체할 수 있다면 혹은 리셋을 누를 수 있다면 뭘로 교체를 하고 싶은지. This is my favorite one so far. I thought it was very funny. Junwon saying belly. 1-pack to 6-pack. Ingenious. We're not agreeing with you. I love the idea because we don't know what you look like, but yes, I love the idea. So smart. Here is your traffic and weather. It is now 7:18. Here's your traffic report. It's looking a little slow on the Dongso overpass from Pyeongnaekor ramp to the old Gaegum tollgate. Also congestion detected on Mandokdaero from Sukdeung intersection to Deokcheon intersection. Also backed up on Luno Samsungdaero from Myeongji ramp to Shinho Bridge as well. It is currently 18 degrees Celsius under partially cloudy skies. It's going to be cloudy throughout the day, and it's going to go up to 27, so a little warmer than yesterday. Looking at the weather across the country, rain is forecast in parts of Gangwon and Gyeongbuk. There is thick fog across the country this morning, so you might want to be extra careful as you head on out. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? for all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time for News Digest. So we are going to dive into news with Haley. The first topic, as I mentioned in today's headlines, is the by-elections. It's here. It's D-Day for the by-elections in South Korea with one district chief seat here in Busan up for grabs, right?
Right. So polls have been open for an hour and 20 minutes, and Kumjonggu's district head seat is open for both ruling and opposition parties, funneling all of their resources for this win.
Yes.
So first, the candidates from the People Power Party, we have Yoon Il-hyun, and from the Democratic Party, Kim Kyung-ji. Early voting rate was fairly high for Kumjong at 20.63%. That's far higher than, 8.98 for nationwide figures. But 20.63 is fairly comparable to early voting for the mayoral by-elections 3 years ago. And that was a very much popular and very an election under a lot of interest. So both parties are claiming that the high early voter turnout is more advantageous for their respective candidates.
Okay.
Let's hear why. The Democratic Party says that the high voter turnout, early voter turnout, is a reflection for the public's desire to bring judgment upon the administration.
Yes.
They also attribute this to the so-called convention effect because there was a candidate merger with the opposition parties between the DP and the Rebuilding Korea Party. So they're saying this brought a lot of attention onto the opposition's candidate.
Okay.
Well, for the ruling People Power Party, the PPP, they are confident that Kumjong will stay the conservative stronghold that it has been. Because if we look at the last 8 elections for the Kumjonggu district head, the Conservative Party has won 7 out of those 8. So they say that the early voter turnout is a result of the conservative base mobilizing.
I see.
Of course, we'll know perhaps by midnight-ish is when pundits say we'll have the results. Of course, neither party could say concretely that they will take the seat.
Yes.
Also, both candidates were on the ground until the very last minute, meeting with voters. And People Power Party's chair Han Dong-un came down to Busan yesterday to lend his support. DP Party chair Lee Jae-myung, he has been here multiple times previously.
Right.
But yesterday he had to actually go to trial. So he
His
could
own
not.
trial, right?
His own trial. So he couldn't attend any of the campaign events.
Yes. All right, so that's what's happening. Once again, Kumjonggu District head seat up for grabs. We're going to move on to our next story. The Nobel Prize in Economics this year went to a trio of researchers studying global inequality. So apparently they actually studied the two Koreas extensively.
Right. So let's break down what the Nobel Prize in Economics was about this year, or I will try my best to break down. So Darren Akimoglu, Simon Johnson, and James Robinson, US-based researchers, have won the 2024 Nobel Prize in Economics for studies of how institutions, this is key, institutions are formed and they affect prosperity.
Yes.
So their studies highlight the importance of social institutions, so 사회제도, in reducing the vast income differences between countries. So what they really look at is historically, if you look at countries or cultures where colonial powers implemented better institutions, these countries ended up faring better at generating more wealth, particularly when industrialization came around. So the key here, according to the laureates, is inclusive institutions, or in Korean, 포용적 제도, which would create long-term benefits for everyone.
Okay. So for them, apparently the two Koreas, this was a significant case study.
Right. So for things like history and economics, you can't really have, experiments because, you can't experiment with humans.
Yes.
Not, I won't say
shouldn't,
that.
yeah.
You shouldn't. But in lab studies, we usually have control groups where all the other factors are equal and you just test what you're testing.
Yes.
The two Koreas, interestingly, offer kind of that aspect in real life because geographically and culturally, were very similar.
Exactly.
Right? It came from the same country. So in this case, but we have vastly different conditions right now, it can be argued that the role of institutions, at least under the Nobel laureates theory, played a big role into Korea's having vastly different economic conditions.
I see.
So Professor James Robinson of the University of Chicago said that South Korea is one of the countries with the most incredible economic success stories in the entire history of the world. And there he credited the role of inclusive institutions for providing far-reaching opportunities across society and motivation, creating dramatic moves up the social ladder for individuals and also people and companies to innovate. So Professor Robinson said that this is not only evident just in cases of large corporations,
Sure.
but that is what he attributed to the success of culture, K-pop and Korean films.
Sure.
So he said that the current economic conditions of us having very corporation-centric economy, it is a typical model in capitalism. And while there are downsides of this, what's important is that the government must exercise regulations to ensure that competition amongst corporations continue.
I see. Well, thanks for breaking down this win and the connection to Korea. While we're on the general topic of just, let's say, inequalities, apparently one's wealth also influences one's health.
Right. So we are looking at what's called the health life expectancy or 건강수명, which is basically the age until which a person can expect to live without major injuries or illnesses.
Sure.
How long can you sustain your healthy life?
Okay.
But that differed vastly on one's wealth. And that gap, unfortunately, is growing. So we're looking at the Ministry of Health and Welfare data released by Democratic Party lawmaker Kim Nam-hee. So health or healthy life expectancy for those in the top 20% of the income group, so for the wealthy, 73.4 years. So they can expect to live a healthy life until they're a little over 75 or
Okay.
73. And that was an increase of 1.6 years from 10 years ago.
Sure.
But then let's look at the lowest 20% of the income group. Their health life expectancy came to only 65.2.
Oh.
That's a big difference.
Yes.
And their health life expectancy in the past decade only increased by half a year. So they haven't seen that much improvement in the past 10 years. So for the highest and the lowest income groups, how long they can expect to be healthy was a difference of 8 years. That's huge.
That's
That
significant.
is significant. And also this pattern of a wealth and health gap was evident in other fields, including deaths by suicide, Alzheimer's, and high blood pressure and cancer rates as well.
Yes.
So lawmaker Kim said, although life expectancy overall continues to rise for the entire country, this polarization in health, it's getting worse based on income. So she emphasized equal access to medicine to guarantee one's rights to dignity.
Right, but that I was stuck on the 8 years.
8 years,
That's a
right?
big difference. Well, for our final story, we're going to go to space, where a NASA spacecraft has begun its latest search for, are we talking about like real ET extraterrestrial
Not
life?
quite like ET,
Not ET.
level, but at least
still.
some life. So basically, when it comes to astronomy and aerospace sciences, the pursuit is for signs of extraterrestrial life, so life outside of Earth, so
Yes.
외계 생명체. So NASA's Europa Clipper has taken off for a very long journey from the Kennedy Space Center to Jupiter.
Jupiter.
목성.
Oh, that's far.
Very far. So this spacecraft will explore not Jupiter, but Jupiter's moon, one of its moons,
Yes.
Europa, and reveal whether its vast hidden ocean might hold keys to life. So the answer, however, is years away. How many years? 5.5.
Oh.
5.5 years away because it takes that long
Just
for
to get
the
there.
spacecraft to get there.
Okay.
And then at that point, it'll slip into orbit around this giant gas planet and sneak closer to Europa. The spacecraft, so you might be wondering, so how does one fuel a spacecraft for 5.5 years? The sun. It's solar powered.
Yes.
It will be able to travel the 2.9 billion kilometers to Europa and enter Jupiter's orbit in 2030.
Well, I have a question for you. It might seem kind of simple. Why Europa? Why
Right.
this one?
Because, I mean, we have how many planets and how many moons
Exactly.
around these planets? So Europa, the key is that it has a salty liquid water ocean So quite similar to Earth.
Okay.
So that could indicate life below the icy surface. And then it should be made clear, and NASA made it clear, it's not a mission to look for life itself, but conditions that would be favorable to hosting life.
Yes.
The spacecraft, it has a very interesting trajectory. It's going to fly by Mars and then come back to Earth or near Earth to use the gravity of each planet to increase its momentum. So think of it like a slingshot. We go back to get that power to propel forward.
Interesting.
Right. And it's not a landing mission because that is vastly difficult. So it's going to orbit. It's going to fly around Europa on 49 different occasions over a span of 3 years.
My goodness.
So cool.
So amazing science. Well, thank you for going over all the top news stories, and we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right, with that, let's get to our first song. Kind of fitting with our stories today. The Astronaut by Jin, as requested by Benny.
않을 history 나의 우주가 돼준 우리의 이야기 목적지 없이 흘러가는 저 소행성처럼 나도 그저 떠내려가고 있었어 어둠 속에 젖은 나의 모든 dream 새롭게 시작될 story 너의 꿈이 되어 우주를 여행하는 어두운 길을 비춰주는 저 은하수처럼 너는 나를 향해 빛나고 있었어 어둠 속에 찾은다 나의 빛 너에게 향하는 나의 길 When I'm with you, there is no one else. I get heaven to myself when I'm with you. There is no one else.
Welcome back. It's now 7:34. So today, what have we been focusing on? We're talking about school safety, student safety around schools. So, we just spoke about, or we talked about the issue of construction around school zones and how, it's dangerous, it's inconvenient. And now let's turn to what's happening inside the schools in terms of air quality. This is important. It's been pointed out that while about 8% of what are called modular classrooms have poor air quality. So what are these modular classrooms? They are these kind of temporary buildings set up outside the main building to handle the spillover of classrooms. So there are 769 such classrooms. 65 turned out to have, they didn't meet the permissible air quality levels in terms of volatile organic compounds. So air quality, not so good. The Office of Education said that it has stopped the usage of these classes and conducted the necessary kind of cleansing and bake out to get rid of these chemicals. So the schools are adding more of these modular classrooms to their grounds because in certain situations, there is just a lack of space. And the authorities, I think they're really going to need to be on top of these safety issues. Once again, once you're inhaling all these volatile organic compounds, just the bad air quality, not good for kids' lungs. And the long-term effect, do we even know what the long-term effect is? Maybe not. Now back to you, the listeners. If you could replace or press reset on any physical attribute or body part, what would it be? Is the question posed to you today. 만약에 내 신체나 장기 중에 하나를 교체하거나 리세트를 할 수 있다면 어디를 선택하시겠습니까? That's the official question. So whether it's I don't know, some of the answers that you're sending in, though, real interesting. Leslie says, I would like to reset my weight back to my weight at 16. Oh, to be 120 pounds again. So many people, I'm sure, look back fondly on their, younger years and say, hey, I wish I could go back to that time. Young says this. Luckily, there is nothing to change or replace in my body for now. Not that my body is in perfect condition, but I like the way it is. So Young Neem, apparently, Young Waver, he is, satisfied with what he has been given. And that's a healthy attitude too. But yes, I'll read a couple more of your messages in just a little bit. Let's get to Kat's pick for today. For Kat's pick, this goes hand in hand with kind of like what we're talking about right now. This complete set of strangers, a woman named Chrissy, she crossed paths with a guy named Schiller Joseph. They were just hiking in the mountains in Utah. And then she decided to give him her kidney. Here is a clip from NBC News.
Good news tonight about the kindness of strangers and the power of faith, giving one pastor a second chance at life. When Utah pastor Schiller Joseph opened this mystery present, he had no idea that inside was the gift of life he'd been praying for. A sign letting him know he was getting a new kidney. And how he got it is something he and kidney donor Chrissy Miller call a miracle. The two strangers met last year completely by chance. Both happened to be hiking up the same mountain, asking God for a sign. On that mountain that day, both of you had prayers answered.
Yes, very much. Very, very much.
He's like, I'm waiting to receive a kidney. And that's when it just
yes.
Even now, makes me emotional. And I just knew that was an answer to my prayers.
That's because Chrissy, a mom of 4, had tried to donate her kidney before, but wasn't able. Still, she fell in love with the idea of being able to save a life. So when she met Schiller, she knew she'd try again.
The cool part is Not only did I meet him there, and that was like amazing, but it was also amazing that Schiller even brought it up.
And this whole conversation happens on the mountain, whole thing.
Yeah.
The pair matched, and their surgery this spring at Utah's Intermountain Medical Center, a big success.
I love you so much.
From strangers to friends.
You'll always be in my heart. Thank you so much.
The pair forging a bond deeper than either could have imagined.
It's beyond like a friendship. We're family now. We're family.
And finding in each other the strength to carry on in tough times.
Just when I thought I knew what faith was, she showed me. It's really about Chrissy, you know? It's really her love that guided this story.
How has this experience changed you?
Physically, I'm the same. I don't feel any different, but mentally and spiritually, I feel so much better.
We may look different outside, but inside we're all the same.
Can you believe the story? I mean, once again, Chrissy, Schiller, they're on a hike in the mountains and they get to talking. And then it leads to her donating a kidney. And so Joseph, who has lupus, had been on the kidney transplant waiting list for some time. By the way, just in the US, the average wait time for a kidney transplant is 3 to 5 years. That's in the US. It could be even longer for people here in Korea. I wanted to share this inspiring story to kind of just uplift us on this hump day. And this was Kat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time to check in with Leon for hashtag fact check. Good morning.
Good morning, Kathy. We're like sky blue today a little bit.
Yes, we are. Great minds think alike, right?
Yes.
So, we want to ask you if you could replace any part of your body or press reset.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm curious.
We can reset it to anything we want, right?
Yes. Okay.
Did anyone say brain yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Because my answer is a brain.
Why?
Because I think I love being bilingual, but I want to be, what do you call it? 4 or 5 language lingual.
Like
I want to be able to speak fluently in at least 4 or 5 languages.
Really?
Because I think my life has been so enriched because I can speak another language. It's one thing to look at the translation of things and, look at it through a translation, but it's another to actually deeply understand it in that language.
A polyglot. I mean, meaning, many
languages like fluently I can just switch just like that,
like a switch.
And I would love to be able to speak French because that's a beautiful language.
French, it is beautiful,
right? Just to replace my brain with a polyglot brain and just
replace
la away.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, a good reason too. Well, we're gonna jump into our topic for today. What do you have for us?
Yes. So today I want to focus on a topic that's becoming more and more relevant here in Korea. It's the changing definition of an elder. Korea is moving obviously rapidly from an aging society to a, we all know, super elderly society.
Yes.
And we are seeing this significant demographic shift. And again, we're not just an aging society anymore. It's a super elderly society where more than 20% of the population is 65 years or older.
Yes.
But when you think of the word elder, word 노인, Catherine, let's say you meet someone who's like just 65 years old.
Yes.
Does that person make you think, oh, that person's a 노인? That 65-year-old's an elder.
These days, no. And I'll say, when I was probably like 20, yes.
Yes.
I thought
back
then.
that's
old.
Right. Me
I'm
too.
just saying, when I was 20, right?
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like, I don't know if it's like because, everybody, we're aging.
Right.
So as we're getting closer to the age, I don't know if that's what it is.
With that age, yes.
Or just the fact that these days, 65-year-olds are like really young and healthy.
Yes, and they don't, and they take
don't look
care
it.
of themselves a lot.
Exactly.
And they're more fashionable and they don't just, look that old. Me too. When someone says they're 65, I don't see 노인이신 느낌은 안 들고.
I don't think maybe 어른, but not like 노인.
Right,
Yes.
right. So what's your age that you should think should be defined as an elder?
An elder for me is like, I don't know. I would say like 72, 75. I like really think.
Good number.
No, because I have students, some students at my in my classes that are like in their 70s, and they come to English class like 3 times a week.
Right, right.
And they are fully there. Like,
Right,
you know,
their brain is just so as sharp as ever.
sharp as a like as a
Wow.
razor. Seriously.
Yes.
So definitely, that's why.
I see.
Okay.
So, that's what I want to fact check today. That does elderly actually mean age 65 and above? Because yes, the generally accepted standard in Korea right now is 65 years and older.
Sure.
But, and that definition is rooted in the 1981 Elderly Welfare Act. But,
Right.
the truth is defining this elderly is not that simple. It's quite complicated. And, it's not really the universal age standard if we want to go in deeper.
Oh, it's not.
So while 65 is widely accepted, there are different laws and programs in Korea that use different age brackets.
Oh.
So let's look at the Long-Term Care Insurance Act.
Sure.
People under 65 with geriatric diseases like dementia are also considered elderly. Then there's also the Act on Prohibition of Age Discrimination in Employment. That lowers the threshold of the definition of elderly to 55.
Oh.
So in fact, people aged 50 to 55 are sometimes referred to as not an elderly, but what's called a semi-elderly.
Oh, like almost there.
Yeah, so we can actually say there's no consistent definition of elderly in Korea as of now.
Wow.
And there was a survey conducted by the Statistics of Korea in May this year, and they actually defined the elderly as people between 55 to up to 79 years old.
Okay,
So
that's a big range, though.
That is a quite wide range. Like
Yeah.
55 is definitely not an elderly.
At least not in my book.
My
but-
friends'
okay.
husbands are like nearing that. Anyway, some programs
Right.
start at 60, while others begin at 65, others at 75.
Sure.
And a 2022 report from the Korea Development Institute found that only about half of the major welfare programs use 65 as the cutoff age.
I didn't know. I just
Right.
assumed because we hear 65 like at least publicly.
Right,
We
right.
hear it a lot, right? 65
That's
and above,
true.
65 and older. But apparently that's not like kind of the official cutoff. It's like all different.
It's just all out. It's all randomly chosen, and this issue it becomes more complicated when we look at how seniors perceive their own age. Aren't you curious? Like,
yeah.
asking the seniors, like, do you consider yourself
Self,
a
like,
an
old.
elder? And you said, you considered an elder to be at least like around 72.
70-ish. Yeah, 72. Right.
And there was actually a survey for this back in 2020 that asked, that showed that almost 53% of the people aged 65 and older that said they believe they are an elder only when they actually reach 70 or older.
Interesting.
Yeah, so even they themselves don't consider themselves an elderly.
Okay,
And
okay.
so the average age people consider themselves elderly was a little higher, 72.6 years.
Ooh. So even once again, the seniors, in air quotes, seniors themselves,
Right.
they don't necessarily see that kind of arbitrary 65 number
Right.
in age as kind of like the magic number, right?
Yes.
Oh, but how does this impact Korea's like overall social and economic planning? Because we still have to have some sort of at least a vague age because we
Right.
need policies and programs.
Exactly. So, the impact is quite big, because we know that life expectancy has been increasing and
Yes.
the birth rate dropping in Korea. And this is putting an immense strain on the Korea's welfare system.
Sure.
There was a report by the National Assembly Legislative Research Service published last year, and that suggested that we might need to raise the age standard from 65 to 70.5. And that's not, we're not redefining elderly just for the cultural reasons.
Yes.
It's also about sustainability and providing services like pensions. We see this talked about on the news all the time, right?
Yes.
And healthcare as well. With the rapidly growing elderly population, there is growing concern out there that, the pensions may never be able to sustain people over 65.
Sure.
And as more seniors face layoffs at this age, the country could struggle to provide adequate pension benefits as well. And more alarming is that the workforce will continue to shrink due to low birth rates, making it essential to reconsider, again, the definition of what is who is an elderly.
Yes.
So raising that age could allow seniors to work for a longer period of time.
Sure.
Let them stay active in the workforce longer, easing the labor shortage in the long run.
Right. And just the fact that people are living longer. I mean, if you are like kind of forced into retirement, let's say some early retirement in their 50s, like big companies, they kind of push you out.
Right.
Or even let's say that you get to 65, that age of like so-called retirement, but people are living so much longer.
Yes.
What are you going to do for like,
I know.
20 plus years?
55, that's like the average life expectancy is like, 100?
These days, they supposedly,
so
right?
half of your life is just like,
what are you going to be doing?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more because maybe we can sum it up or tell us more about this whole issue because I'm sure this actually does affect, pretty much everyone eventually.
Even the young generation as well.
I'm going to get there.
Right.
Even Leon's going to get there.
Right,
Eventually,
right.
we're all going to get there, right?
And so to just briefly talk about what the discussions have been about raising the retirement age or changing benefits versus seniors, the Korea Development Institute is actually looking into possibility of raising that age along with other welfare-related changes. It is a difficult conversation because on the one hand, people are living longer, but on the other hand, raising the age can have a huge impact on those who rely on those benefits. So
Yes.
just one more thing before I go.
Of course. We have time.
We have
yes.
time.
A little bit more time, yes.
I did not know that the month of October is 경로의 달. Did you know that? The
It
month of the
is.
elderly.
There's such a
designated
month?
Designated month to raise more awareness to focus on elderly-related issues. So which is why I thought it was more timely to bring this
perfect timing
issue about.
Yes.
But the reality is, we're living now in an ultra elderly society, but there are still problems like social isolation, poverty, and high suicide rates, which I just don't think we have enough time to get into. But
this is
serious problems.
Serious issues.
Serious problems.
And the whole loneliness thing, I think that's that can lead to a myriad of other issues, right?
Yes.
Just being lonely.
And I think that's the reason why elderly need work.
Yes.
Because they're living alone anyway. And this depression issue and they just need socializing somewhere to go to every day. I watched an interview yesterday as I was doing my research and there was this an elderly in his late 60s, and he said he was taking public transportation 2 hours every day just to work for 3 hours. And he said he's happy on his way going there and going back because he has somewhere to go and he has somewhere to just socialize.
Right, a purpose to get up in the morning.
He didn't put that meaning on the amount of money that he's making.
Right.
But just, the purpose and the amount of socializing that he gets. So it was a little touching.
Well, thanks for doing all this research and bringing us a very important issue in October. Now we know.
경로의 달.
경로의 달. All right. Well, we'll try to remember every year. Well, thank you so much for this topic. And of course, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, Leon.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. It's time to wrap up our discussion. That's just for hour number 1, though. We have more in hour number 2 as well. And so I do want to read another message from 태진, who says, 저는 원이 모를 어지러움 중 있어서 머리 바꾸고 싶어요. 바꾸는 김에 IQ 좋고 handsom하게. You guys are all like kind of a little greedy, selfish today. He wants to change his brain, and while he's there, he has certain issues about about dizziness and dizzy spells. So he's like, I want to transplant my brain or get a new brain. And while he's doing that, maybe up the IQ a little bit and become more. And I say more handsome because he has sent in his photo many a times to our Kakao Talk channel. So yes, I can definitely say you're already a handsome guy. Well, thank you for listening to hour number 1. Here's our final song, What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. I'll be back at 8.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to
Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
The time is now 8 o'clock, and this is news highlights. North Korea cuts off all land routes with South. North Korea yesterday blew roads surrounding the Gyeonggi and Donghae lines connected to South Korea, seeking to cement its animosity towards Seoul. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, or JCS, said that the South's military did not suffer any damages and that it responded by firing shots south of the military demarcation line as self-defense and warning. In the meantime, Gyeonggi Province issued a danger zone designation over its 11 inter-Korean border areas to stop North Korean defectors and activists from sending out anti-Pyongyang propaganda leaflets. Yoon calls for bipartisan efforts to scrap financial investment income tax. President Yoon Suk-yeol yesterday urged the parties to work together to abolish the planned financial investment income tax in an effort to shore up the stock market. The tax, which would impose a 20% tax on capital gains exceeding 50 million won from stock investments, was due to go into effect last year but had been delayed until January of next year. The ruling People Power Party had pushed for its abolition to stimulate the stock market, while the main opposition, Democratic Party, is weighing further postponement. Polls open for October 16th by-elections. South Koreans are heading to the polls today to elect 4 local government heads in Kumdong District, Busan, Gangwon County, Incheon, and Koksong and Yeongan counties in Cheonnam, as well as the education chief of Seoul. The results are expected to serve as a litmus test of public sentiment since the April general elections and a gauge of the two major parties' new leadership. Polls opened at 6 a.m. and will remain open until 8 p.m. across the 2,404 stations nationwide, according to the National Election Commission. Early voting turnout was 8.98%. U.S. warns Israel of cuts to military support unless Gaza situations improve. The Biden administration has sent a warning to Israel, saying it faces possible punishment, including the potential stopping of U.S. weapons transfers if it does not let more humanitarian aid into Gaza. The letter, co-written by Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, is the strongest known written warning. Israel has not issued a comment, but on Monday, local time, 30 trucks carrying aid from the World Food Program had entered northern Gaza after 2 weeks of zero food aid deliveries, according to the UN. South Korea snatches a 3-2 victory against Iraq in World Cup qualifier. South Korea's young offensive stars grabbed a 3-2 victory against Iraq in the Group B match in the Asian World Cup qualifying tournament, with goals from Oh Se-hoon, Oh Hyun-gyu, and Lee Jae-sung. Young players have stepped up to fill the gap left by stars Son Heung-min and Hwang Hee-chan from their injuries, as Oh Hyun-gyu scored and Bae Jun-ho provided assists in 2 consecutive matches. South Korea leads the group with 3 wins and 1 tie. And this was News Highlights. It is now time for Issue Wagger. Haley's back.
Hello, hello.
All right, so first up, controversy surrounding this political broker and his alleged close relationship with the first couple, it is continuing to grow.
It is just, it's a source that keeps on making headlines. So this is a story that involves the political broker, pollster Myung Tae-gyun, who claims to have been, maybe still is, a close friend and even consultant to President Yoon Suk-yeol and First Lady Kim Gon-hee, starting from when he was a candidate back in 2021 through the presidential election and even allegedly exerting his influence during the April general elections of this year, which, as having gone through another different round of influence peddling scandals, this is a sensitive topic in Korea.
Yes.
So the point of contention right now is how close he was with the first couple. So Myung, for his part, he claims that he spoke to them daily on speakerphone, so this is very detailed, for 6 months straight, which the presidential office claimed was absurd. But then this was in response to Myung having released the text messages, screenshots of messages he apparently exchanged with Kim Gon-hee, the first lady, back in 2021. And in this particularly interesting exchange, I should say, the first lady says, quote, "You," referring to Myung, "are doing hard work. Please forgive 우리 오빠," or my oppa, "who has been blabbing on. I'm so embarrassed. This is what happens when you're ignorant," by you meaning one is ignorant, "and I apologize," unquote. Once again, this is from the wife of a presidential candidate or a soon-to-be presidential candidate to a political broker.
Okay, once again, let's go rewind a little bit. This whole 우리 오빠 issue or phrasing, apparently the presidential office tried to explain this message, but that seems to have fueled the fire even more. So can you explain?
So the terminology 오빠, first definition is your biological older brother. But in Korean culture, we also use that term to refer to any older male of close acquaintance. And this is a moniker used for your romantic partner as well if they are older.
Right.
So it appears in the message and the context provided, many outlets and pundits have said that the oppa that Kim is referring to would be her husband. But then the presidential office said that the oppa she was speaking about was her actual biological brother, which at least in the context of it seems to have kind of appeared out of the blue. But opposition lawmakers say that this doesn't actually resolve allegations of influence peddling, or rather, if they do take it at face value that she was referring to her biological brother, then it implies that he was even involved in the presidential election. So they're questioning whether this was all a family business.
Indeed. So that's why tongues are wagging right now. So for now, though, we're going to move on to our next story. This pattern of science students dropping out to join medical schools has become more and more prominent, right? They're reapplying, etc. And it's happening at one of the country's top science institutes.
Right. So in the past 3 years, 182 students at KAIST, the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, have dropped out explicitly to go to medical school. And this is according to the university's data released by Democratic Party lawmaker Hwang Jung-ah between the year 2021 and October 4th of this year.
Right.
And these are the students who actually wrote on their dropout forms that the reason they are dropping out is to go to medical or even dentist schools. This included 178 undergraduate students, so most of them were undergrad. But this also means there were 4 students in their master's or even PhD programs who let go of their years of research and studies. And the actual number, though, is likely higher because, as I said, these are the students who said the reason, who actually wrote the reason, as opposed to just dropping out. And that figure has been on the rise every year, from 54 students back in 2021 to 62 in 23.
Yes.
The dropouts are usually concentrated in the second semester, which is after the college entrance, the CSAT exams. So that's November, of course. So the lawmakers said that with the expanded medical school admissions quota to go into effect this year, that number number of dropouts, not only from KAIST, but from other universities, may grow this year, which we will, of course, see in about a month or two. Well, here's the thing about KAIST. This is a public institution created for advanced science and technology education, aka the basic sciences or STEM. Most students are on full ride scholarships because the expectation is that they will contribute to scientific research for public interest.
Yes.
So the fact that we have so many students dropping out, presumably for the private sector, mostly for hospitals, it speaks volumes about the state of basic STEM fields in the country. And the lawmaker who released these figures called for further support for these STEM fields to prevent this brain drain.
And that is problematic when we're having top science students who are leaving in significant numbers.
And we can't fault the students because if they don't see a prospect for their research and for their careers, then we have to look at the system.
We can't blame them because, yes, that's just the status of what's going on right now. All right, moving on. Diplomatic language. Very, it can be very tricky and it's very particular. And so apparently the South Korean ambassador to Japan is under fire for, I guess, the order of a particular phrase?
Right. So it's customary for a country, its diplomats and the media to put your home country first when we're talking about bilateral or multilateral relations. So it's chorus, Korea, U.S., South-North relations, 남북 관계, and South Korea and Japan, 한일, right? Does the phrase 일한 sound?
It sounds so odd because we just don't use it.
Right, we just, why would you? So, but here's the thing. The South Korean ambassador to Japan, Park Cheol-hee, repeatedly said 일한, Japan, South Korea. First in an interview with a Japanese media outlet at a cultural exchange event. And then following this reports put him using this phrase repeatedly at a press conference last week. And that day he actually never said the phrase 한일, but used 일한 on 37 occasions, according to the report, along with 일비한, 한밀, which we would usually say South Korea, U.S., Japan in the reference to the trilateral relations.
Yes.
So after this report came out, the ambassador explained that because he was speaking in Japanese without an interpreter, he used an expression that was used more locally. But let's keep in mind he's the South Korean ambassador to Japan.
Right. And by the way, like when we, see like articles in English that are written by American journalists, it's just, the standard. You put your home country first.
Right.
I'm just putting it out there because I don't want people to think we're anti this or that.
No.
But some people have dug up his past, I guess, comments and positions that may raise some questions and eyebrows.
Right. So he has been, according to other reports, fairly pro-Japanese in his past positions, going back to 2019. A little background, this was at the kind of peak of the No Japan boycott as Japan put South Korea on basically its blacklist of semiconductor materials.
Yes.
Well, his editorial for a Korean paper said basically this No Japan movement only benefits North Korea and not the South. He also called the termination of South Korea and Japan's military information sharing pact, GSOMIA, one that was based on emotional nationalism. So why does this matter? Well, number one, diplomatic language is a very, very sensitive thing. I mean, you and I have like MC diplomatic events where we go through every single comma, period, letter. So some pundits say that this goes in line with the Yoon administration's overall diplomatic stance, or at least one we have seen taken by several members of the cabinet, including those who have been under controversy recently for possibly being a part of the New Right movement.
Okay, well, that is why, once again, we're talking about this. Many people are commenting regarding, I guess, comments that he made. And now, moving on, the issue of senior driving. It has become such a hot button topic here in South Korea. But there are tests in place to see if seniors are in, a good place, health-wise, safe condition to drive. But it's been pointed out that the test, it may not be sufficient.
Right. So this kind of goes in line with what Leon covered earlier in our first hour.
Yes.
So according to the Korea Road Traffic Authority, or KOROAD, a driver license holder, someone who has a driver's license who is 75 years or older, they must take a test every 3 years to see if he or she is fit to drive before they can renew their license.
Yes.
So it's a two-part process. They first have to go to a designated medical center to take an Alzheimer's or dementia screening test. And then once they pass that, they can then go to the Road and Traffic Authority, basically the Korean DMV, for their driving fitness test.
Okay.
But here's the thing. As long as they pass the Alzheimer's screening, if they even fail the driving fitness test, there is no way for the government or for the authorities to not renew their license.
And my big question is why not? But anyhow. So let's find out more about what the two different tests actually handle.
Right. So the Alzheimer's or dementia screening, it tests memory, attention, and language ability.
Okay.
So it's like the doctor or the healthcare professional will say a sentence and the patient has to repeat it. Or look at a series of numbers or say a series of numbers or look at a picture and say what the object in the picture is. Not very pertinent when it comes to the set of skills needed for driving. On the other hand, the DMV's driver's fitness test, it has the drivers discern road signs to say what this means, spatial memory, and also it'll have things like you look at a sign and then a couple seconds later you have to choose the direction or your action depending on what that sign said.
Okay.
So if a stop sign, you stop or slow down, whatnot. So this would be a better indicator of a driver's fitness to operate a vehicle.
You would think, yes.
But the thing is, it's not reflected in the legal process of whether one gets to renew their license or not. So it's more of a gap in the law.
I see.
In the meantime, rapid aging has put senior drivers' accidents as a serious problem. There's been a 27% increase in accidents involving senior drivers of 65 or older between 2020 and last year. Of course, once again, it is so important to reiterate that age isn't the only indicator.
Right.
Of course, everybody differs based on what age they are. However, because it has become a social issue and because we are living in a rapidly aging society, it is an issue that needs to be addressed.
Indeed. Well, thank you for going over all the hot issues, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
And back to you, the waivers for our updated traffic and weather. It is now time for your traffic and weather update. It is looking slow on the Eusukdo Bridge in the direction of the Sinpyeong Changnim Industrial Complex right now. It's also backed up on Gwangan Bridge going towards the Daeun Overpass. There's congestion on Pyeongno from the old Panya Toll Gate to the Suyong Tunnel. As for the weather, it's currently 18 degrees Celsius. It's going to go up to 27 today. And I think we're going to have some partially cloudy skies throughout the day. Looking at the rest of the nation, rain is forecast in parts of Gangwon and Gyeongbuk, and we're getting reports of thick fog across certain parts of the country this morning. So please be aware of this as you go about your day. This was your traffic and weather.
I could while away the hour.
In line with our text topic and William's suggestion, If I Only Had a Brain by Judy Garland and Ray Boulder.
I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a brain. I'd unravel every riddle for any individual in trouble or in pain.
With the thoughts you'd be thinking you could be an Arthur Lincoln if you only had a brain.
The ocean's near the shore. I could think of things I never thought before. And then I'd sit and think some more. I would not be just a nuffin', my head all full of stuffin', my heart all full of pain. I would dance and be merry, life would be a ding-a-dairy if I only had a brain. Gosh, it would be awful pleasing to reason out the reason for things I can't explain. Then perhaps I'll deserve you and be even worthy of you if I only had a brain.
I love that tune, bringing back memories from The Wizard of Oz. Welcome back, everybody. Before we get into our special interview, and by the way, if I only had a brain, I would want Dr. Victor Ambrose's brain. We're going to speak to him in just a little bit. And so looking back on some of your comments regarding my text topic today, if you could replace or reset any physical attribute or a body part, what would it be? So another answer that I got on our Kakao Talk message board sent from Choi Hee-suk Waver, who says, I would reset my legs with longer ones because I wish I were taller. Legs. I think that might be one that some other people might say, hey, why didn't I think of that? Because, who doesn't want to be maybe a little taller or have longer legs? I've never heard of anybody saying, I wish my legs were shorter. That's for sure. Or unless you're like extremely tall. That could be a thing as well. And I think I also saw a message from Tori Waver, if I'm not mistaken. I was scrolling through very quickly, and I think she was mentioning something about 평발이라고, she would want to replace her 평발, so meaning low arches, flat feet. It's a common enough issue, but I don't know. Does that somehow affect you, like the way you walk or exercise? I'm not quite sure, but those are some of the comments that have come up on the board. All right, for now though, let's get to our special interview. Well, the news these days, we've been covering the various winners as they've been being announced as the Nobel Prize winners for each category. Well, Dr. Victor Ambrose, he has been awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine, and it is for his discovery of microRNA and its role in gene regulation, a breakthrough that has reshaped molecular biology. That's what all the experts are raving about right now. So his journey from a curious student to this groundbreaking researcher is a testament to really the power of just perseverance and scientific just curiosity and inquiry. So Dr. Ambrose's work has not only advanced our understanding apparently of genetics, but also maybe opened doors to new possibilities, maybe even in medical treatments. Let's explore this path to the Nobel Prize and the challenges I'm sure he's faced as well and the impact of his research. Joining us is the man himself, Dr. Victor Ambrose, the Silverman Chair in Natural Sciences and Professor of Molecular Medicine at the University of Massachusetts Chan Medical School. 2024 노벨 생리의학상 수상자 Victor Ambrose 박사를 지금 만나보겠습니다. So let's say hi to him first. Hi, welcome to our program.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So first of all, Dr. Ambrose, and I think I told you during our test call, but if we could get this information, maybe, middle school level of explanation, what exactly is microRNA? Can you explain to us?
Well, microRNA is part of the machinery or information processing circuitry inside each of our cells. Amazingly, all the cells of our body contain exactly the same DNA. The information that gives us the shape we are and the things we do. But every cell in our body is, in a way, different from every other one. So a brain cell is different from a skin cell, is different from a muscle cell. And this is because the information in the DNA is being deployed differently in each of those cells to give them all the properties that we recognize, in those cells and enable them to do what they do. And microRNAs are part of that information processing machinery that brings us information from the DNA to to realization. And the way that happens in each cell is that the DNA is copied into RNA. And some of the RNA molecules help build the cells, and other RNA molecules are including the microRNAs, regulate when those other RNAs and therefore those other genes are on or off.
Oh my goodness. I actually understood what you said, so thank you for explaining it, kind of dumbing it down for us, for lack of a better term. So if you could share with our listeners what first inspired you to even get into this field, because from what I understand, you and also the co-recipient of the same award, were you not part of the same research group in the beginning?
Yes, Gary Ruvkun and I were doing postdoctoral training after our PhD.
Yes.
We were doing research in the lab of Robert Horvitz at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and we were working together and on a project that was aimed at understanding how an animal keeps track of time while it's developing. So that, as the animal develops, the various parts of that animal are added at the right times and in the right sequence. So you end up with the right final, form. It's like a choreography of development. And we were using genetic approaches to do this. And so, this was quite a while ago. It was in the 1980s. And so the tools that were available were, much simpler than today, but also, restrictive in what you could actually accomplish in a given amount of time. So when we set up each of our own laboratories,
yes,
we sort of informally agreed to divide up the project in a way so that his lab would concentrate on trying to track down and identify the DNA sequence of one of the genes that we're interested in, and we would track down the other one. Now, the one that we set out to find and characterize turned out to be a microRNA gene. And then Dr. Ruvkun, at the same time, was doing studies that complemented our studies in a way that there was a wonderful synergy between the findings, such that we published our respective papers back to back, as they say, in the same journal.
Yes. So I believe your team was in charge. Is it the Lin4? And
yes, right.
So as I was reading up on this, what is the significance of this, though, Dr. Ambrose? Because now that we have a better understanding of the basics of what you discovered, how is this important for humankind, for humanity? And how does this parlay from what I understand, these, I guess, like worms or let's say other animals, and parlay that over into human beings?
Yeah, that's a really important thing for us to emphasize, is that these studies were conducted using an animal that had been adopted as sort of a stand-in for more complicated animals like ourselves. And this is because it's called Caenorhabditis elegans. It's a nematode. It normally lives in the soil outside, but it obligingly will grow happily on a petri dish and just consuming bacteria and allowing us to see the animals as they develop and also undergo, their life cycle. The life cycle is very fast. It's only 2.5 days. So this allows investigators to perform experiments quite quickly and, relatively quickly. The animal also is clear. So, any middle school student or high school student with a microscope could look inside of C. elegans and see the cells and watch them develop. And so that animal has actually, research on this animal, C. elegans, has now yielded 4 Nobel Prizes and really has enabled, I think, the public to appreciate the importance of the basic research in this animal. And so the important thing is that, of course, microRNAs are not just in this little worm, but they're in people, and essentially all animals, in fact, have microRNAs. And many of us, including humans, let's say, have as many as 1,000 different genes that make microRNAs, and each of those genes makes a microRNA, and that microRNA has evolved to regulate dozens or sometimes hundreds of other genes. So these microRNAs really are integrated in a highly connective information processing system inside our cells. So I think the significance for, let's say, medical outcomes is one where, an increased understanding of the mechanisms and the complexity of those mechanisms inside cells enables us to really approach solving the really difficult problems of, disease prevention and treatment, with a stronger knowledge base. And it really, the time, of course, between when new discoveries lead to, manifest public health advances is often decades. And this is because it takes a lot of people, a lot of time, and a lot of resources to really engineer the kinds of reliable and safe medicines, that could be perhaps immediately suggested discovery, yet still take decades to realize.
Indeed. So, of course, we will look forward to hearing about how this leads to further developments in medicine in the near future. But right now, if I could switch gears just a little bit, Dr. Ambrose, and talk about the moment you found out that you became a Nobel laureate. So while doing research for this particular interview, I saw this clip of you explaining, apparently, is it true that your son, the Nobel Committee, contacted your son first and not you? And so how did you find out, and what was the reaction like?
Well, what happened was that I had, plugged my phone in downstairs, and our bedroom is upstairs. So when the gentleman at from the Nobel Committee tried to call me, he didn't get through. And then later on, I could see on my phone there was Sweden, multiple calls, And so I guess some resourceful person thought of calling some other people named Ambrose in the area, or, in Massachusetts. So he called my son. And then my son called my wife, Rosalind Lee.
Yes.
Who had her phone, up there in the bedroom. And so then he said, yes, I'm sure, tell Dad that if he gets a call from Sweden, answer it. That's how I heard the news. That was the news for me right there. Yeah.
Wow. And so after you heard this from your son, and I'm sure you did pick up the call from Sweden shortly thereafter. Yes. Mm-hmm. What's it been like? I saw the reaction from the UMass community. I saw that. It was really heartwarming. But what has it been like? I mean, has your life changed? Because, I know you're an esteemed scientist and researcher, and we would all like to think, oh, I'm sure he's very calm, and my life has not changed. But we really want to know, has it changed?
Yeah, it has changed. My wife and I, Rosalind Lee is my wife, and she's my scientific partner in this investigation. Because she's the first author on that paper. So, on the paper that triggered this prize eventually, and so we are not accustomed, to being in the public eye, and we find ourselves, in circumstances like this, So we're not like BTS, who has, fully adapted to the public eye. So we think that, RM could give us some good advice about how to handle all this. But, so that's the main thing that's new, is that we've, just the arena in which we're operating is out of context for us. And, but, we're seeing it as an adventure and a learning experience. So here we are.
And here we are. And to connect even more with our listeners out there, I want to ask this next question to your Dr. Ambrose. You know, many of your students and colleagues, they describe you as always being so inquisitive, you know, always wanting to learn more. That's how they describe you, including one of your students, Choi Sung-wook, who really does speak highly of your mentorship. How do you feel knowing that your work and even your guidance is making such a huge impact? Not just, oh, yes, of course, winning the Nobel Prize is amazing, but the fact that like on a daily basis that you're making this impact on other people.
Yeah, I heard Choi Sung-wook's comments, and those are really heartwarming. And, you know, he's more than a former student. He's a close and dear friend of Rosalind and I. And, you know, actually, we visited Korea, and he and his parents hosted us. And it was such a wonderful experience. Choi Sung-wook also took me to the bath, you know, the sauna.
The scrub.
Yeah, the scrub place and everything. And so, which was a very novel experience for me. And, you know, and we enjoyed wonderful food and great hospitality, you know. So, yes, what I'm appreciating, I think, more than ever, from people's remarks is that it kind of really does matter what all of us say each day, minute by minute, with the folks with whom we work. Sometimes I'm surprised at a small remark of my own will make a big difference to somebody. And, you know, you don't really appreciate it in the moment, perhaps. So I guess these kinds of wonderful, you know, sentiments that people are expressing, you know, cause me to try to be more mindful of you know, reaching out. Even smiling at somebody on the sidewalk can make a big difference for their day, even if it's a stranger, you know. So these things are very important, very important.
And the thing is, mini surprise for you, Dr. Ambrose. I know you can't see our YouTube chat room right now, but Choi Sung-wook, he's actually in our chat room, and I'm watching live, and he says, I'm honored. So he's actually watching this live right now. Oh, I'm getting chills. He can't speak directly, obviously. He's chatting with our other listeners, but just maybe a short message, a shout out to him. What would you like to say?
Oh, yeah, Sung-wook, Candy is here, and we're
eager to visit.
Yeah, we're eager to visit for our next visit to Korea, and hoping to see you and your parents then.
So such a nice moment that we're capturing right here live on our program. But going back just a bit to kind of to touch people even more, to you know, to our audience and listeners. Advice for aspiring scientists, because, you know, today in our headline news, we're talking about the fact with one of our segments that many of our young scientists, they're actually leaving that field to pursue, for example, a career in medicine, to become like an MD rather than stay and as a researcher, which is kind of disheartening because we definitely want to see achievements in science. So what would you say for any aspiring scientists out there?
Okay, you know, I think there's two sides to this. I was overhearing your story, and I thought it was very interesting. One of the things that's important that I've learned is that sometimes people start on a career path, and then they discover that maybe it's not for them. And I think it used to be that the senior sort of administrators or mentors or professors have not very little tolerance for that. And I think in recent decades, we've become more mindful of the fact that it's important that young people make choices that are right for them. And so, in fact, you know, the graduate program at UMass Chan is designed to accommodate people's diverse career interests and to facilitate them being aware of their power to make choices and make changes. So, in a way, when I hear of someone, let's say, dropping out of KAIST to go to medical school, well, maybe in that might be a case where it's a student making a wise choice. On the other hand, it could be somebody who is really dreaming of being a scientist and has become discouraged.
Yes.
Right? And so I feel like I can throw out advice, to both those kind of people. If you feel that your path, the path you're on, or your parents put you on, or what you fell into is not for you, then you have the power to really think about what would be right for you and to make those choices to change your path. And if you are somebody who is dreams of being a scientist and is committed to do it, but has become discouraged for some reason. For example, maybe you've heard that the jobs in biotech are fewer than they were last year or the year before.
Right.
By the time you finish your studies, it's probably going to rebound, right? Because, if it's biomedical studies, we know that's a growing enterprise.
Yes.
And in engineering fields as well. It's very hard to predict the future. So if your dream is to do, let's say, civil engineering, I'd say, stick with it, because success in a field of STEM is really powered by the passion that you feel for it and the dedication you have for it. So if you see in yourself that, I have the passion to do this, I have the energy, I have the desire.
Yes.
I think go for it, because that means you've got, all your engines running, to be successful. And the world may be suggesting that things are tougher than you'd like, but what choice do you have to don't abandon your dream? I mean, really.
My goodness, so inspiring, of course, not just on your whim, but the words that you have for all of us here who are non-scientists and scientists alike. Thank you so much for inspiring us today, Dr. Ambrose. We wish you and, of course, your wife the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. This was Dr. Victor Ambrose, the recipient this year, the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his work on microRNA.
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It's time for us to greet Jennifer for Skills 101. Good morning.
How are you?
I don't know. I was so left kind of in awe and inspired
I
by
know
Dr.
what
Ambrose.
you mean.
I'm still on that high.
I was listening to it outside. And
so personable too. So thank you once again for that interview. We're going to
so inspiring.
Right? Was it not?
Yeah,
I mean, really.
It was really.
However, we do want to also focus on Skills 101, things that we can do to improve our work life, our home life. Yes. What can we do?
I've been thinking a lot about conflict resolution lately, because human relationship is what really causes most stress in our daily lives.
Yes.
So it's something we all deal with, and we don't always talk about it enough. So I thought we should talk about it today on this segment.
Okay, here we go. So let's get into the different types of conflicts, because conflicts we cannot avoid. We can't avoid. They're a part of life no matter how nice you are, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. So let's first talk about different styles of managing conflict and when to use them. So
Okay.
So there are 5 conflict management styles: competing, avoiding, accommodating, compromising, and collaborating.
Okay. So I'm sure each one has its time and place. So let's start with the first one, competing.
Okay, yeah. So competing is not about competition. So competing is more like assertive.
So 경쟁이 아니라 like speaking up for yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking up for yourself. And maybe somewhat uncooperative. at times.
Oh, yes. Some people can be.
Yeah, but it can be effective when a quick decision is necessary and when we are faced with crisis, for example. Okay, so when a manager has to make a call during crisis, such as deciding to evacuate a building during an emergency, this may work well. And when you have the upper hand in the situation, it may be more effective.
Okay, so that is competing. So the next one you mentioned was avoiding. So what does that, how does that work? Like, because I'm curious as to like how we can, kind of implement these things in our lives.
Yes, there's avoiding. Personally, I don't really like this because like most men, I find they try to
not all
not all
some men and some women
man at home.
She's talking about her man at home. Yes,
tries to avoid conflict. So
약간 피하기
피하는 거. Which is when you decide not to engage at all. Like I feel so ignored,
Oh, Jennifer's husband, are you listening?
This can be useful though if the issue is minor or if you need time to cool down a bit.
Oh, that one I agree with.
Yeah,
if it's like too heated, you need to bring it down a little. Okay.
Let's say you're upset because a colleague took credit for your idea.
Yes.
But you're still too angry to discuss it calmly. So instead of shouting, you can avoid the situation for a bit and come back to it later.
Okay. So I would think though that's for, you said minor stuff, but not ideal for like if you have like big or recurring issues.
No,
right?
That's right. Some issues avoidance can help, but overusing avoidance can lead to unresolved issues piling up.
Yes.
이게 쌓이게 되죠.
맞아요. So what's next on the list? So we went through competing and avoiding, and now it's...
And next is accommodating.
Okay.
Which is all about putting the other person's needs first. So you being very kind.
Yes.
It's great for maintaining harmony and good relationship. Yeah. For example, if you're working on a team project and someone insists on using their method, you might agree to keep things moving smoothly. But if you accommodate too much all the time, you might feel resentful or overlooked.
Okay. So accommodating. So it does sound like kind of like, a balancing act though, so far, right?
Act. Yeah. It's, as long as we are not overusing it, I think it's a good method.
Okay. So we went to, what about the next one? Compromising. This one I like.
Okay. It's finding a middle ground where both parties give in something. Yeah. It's quick and it can be effective, but it doesn't always satisfy either side fully, not 100%.
True.
You feel like, I gave up something. You know? Imagine two colleagues who both want a day off on the same day, on the same date. Yeah. They agree that one will take the morning off and the other one the afternoon.
Like split it in half?
Yeah, not 100% happy, right? 50% happy.
Okay. But better than not being 100% unhappy, I think.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
And then what about our final one?
Finally, this is an ideal one. We have a collaborating, which is the gold standard for handling important conflicts. It involves finding a solution that works for everyone, often a win-win. For example, if a team is struggling over budget allocation, they could collaborate to brainstorm a new plan that ensures all departments get what they need, even if it means finding additional resources.
That is interesting because, these days we see a lot of collaboration, a collab between this and that, and even different brands coming together for a collab. But it does sound more time consuming than others, right?
Sure,
so when should we use this?
It takes time. It does take time. Collaborating is best used when the stakes are high.
Okay.
And the relationship is also important. It's about getting to the root of the issue and ensuring everyone's needs are met.
Yes. So, I don't know. It's like, it sounds to me thus far of the 5 things that you've spoken about, kind of picking the right style at the right moment for that situation might be key.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's not easy to think when you are so stressed out.
Right. Which one should I pull out of the bag today for this situation, right?
There isn't one style that fits every situation.
Sure.
The key is flexibility.
Okay.
Knowing when to use each approach. The more you practice, it gets better.
Flexibility, and then I guess practice makes perfect.
Yes, that's right.
Very insightful. So now we need to know, and I'm sure some of our waivers they're waiting for this. How can we apply this to like real life, to daily life?
Conflicts aren't always fun, but with the right approach, they can lead to growth and stronger connections. I mean, one of them. Why are you laughing?
Because you said conflicts aren't always. They're never fun. I was thinking, like, are they ever fun?
No. I have to make a correction. It's never fun. Yeah, it's never fun.
Right.
Well, some are more painful than the others.
Yes, that's
right?
true. That
more
is so
stressful
true.
than the others.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is that one of the main reasons conflicts arise in relationship is because we try to speak about the other person's intentions. So we should try not to do this. I get the feeling that you ignore me. You're not respecting me. You know? The truth is only they know their motives or circumstances.
That's true.
You cannot assume, right? So in every situation, there is a right approach. The first one we should think about is not to think from other person, not to think for other person. Yeah.
I mean, I fully understand that we should not assume. We should not assume to know what's going on in someone else's head, even though we're almost sure. Sometimes we feel so sure, like, oh, this person is totally disrespecting me.
Oh, yeah.
But it could be something completely unrelated.
I mean, seeing from other person's perspectives, that's good. That's different, right? 네, 공감하는 거, empathy is different.
Yes,
but like assuming that can be dangerous.
That is.
It can lead to more conflicts
and misunderstandings and like resentment and it can lead to bigger, badder things.
It's always better to focus on actions, facts, and how they made us feel.
Okay.
When communicating, imagine there's a tennis court between you and the other person, and make sure to stay on your side of the net, not to go over the net.
Okay. Oh, important.
Yeah.
That's a great picture I just got. Don't go over the net. Stay on your side. Still, doing the, going back and forth with a tennis ball, though. All right. Well, I think we have a better grasp on how to use these 5 tools.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
So, and hopefully we can practice conflict, management better with our arsenal now. So thank you so much, and we'll check in with you next week.
Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, today was a fantastic way to kick off our hump day. And the fact that, we are able to get these. Yes, it's a get. That's what we call it. To get these amazing interviews for you. It just makes our team feel like really good. And the fact that you appreciate it makes us feel even better. And then next Monday, top secret. I don't know. Some of you might have already seen it's in the news if you look carefully. But next Monday we have a huge, mega, special interview. So you're going to have to stay tuned to find out who it is. That's next Monday. All right. Final song to take us out is this one that Leslie suggested, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. This is the one by Israel, Kamakawi Wa'oli. So enjoy. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Someday you wish trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dream that you dare to, oh why can't I? Oh, someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find